Okay, in the last videos, I've shown you how to make solid paths. This one I made with a combination of the 3 different fill path methods we've learned. Shape tools. I can show you the ones I made with shape tools. Like these. Oh, gotta unlock it. Right? Shape tools that I just repeated them and rotated them. Okay? Then, ones I did with the pencil tool, where I drew it. And then ones I did with the pen tool, where I really kind of controlled where each anchor was and where each curve was. But they're all together, and it's really all fractured. So it's really messy. It's not very clean. Right? So if I wanted a cleaner way to do it, I just used the pencil tool, and that did it all in one shape. It just happens to be a green shape. So I want you to choose either the pen tool, the pencil tool, or a shape tool. And in the corner somewhere, actually we can do it off the artboard in the gray. I want you to make a shape. I'm going to go ahead and use the pencil tool to make a closed shape. Something that will erase something out of. Just remember to close it. Okay, and then I'm going to fill it with black with no stroke. Now I'm going to show you the amateurish way to cut it out. Because if you remember what my sketch is, my sketch has these shapes, not in white, but these shapes cut out. Right? So the amateurish way is you use the eraser. And just like the pencil tool, you can double click on the eraser, but you don't get to choose whether it's accurate or smooth. You do get to choose the size of it, just like using the eraser in Photoshop, but it's not in pixels because there are no pixels in vector programs. It's in point sizes, just like when you do type design. So you won't know what that point size is until you try it. But this is what I recommend. Do it with a tablet and set the setting not to be fixed, but to be pressure sensitive. And then set the variation to be the full scope of your size. So if my size is 16 point, my pressure is also going to be turned on, and then my variation is going to be 16 point. That allows me, even though my eraser is this size, right? It allows me, if I press lighter, it can be a lot smaller. And I want you to erase away from your shape using that. Now, that's the amateurish way. Why? Because it gives you a ton of anchor points. But maybe that's kind of the hand-drawn way you want. And then, of course, you can always use the pencil tool to smooth those out or redraw them to be what you want, as long as you start on the path and end on the path, which is sometimes difficult. And sometimes you'll get little things, but those are all cutouts. What's the professional way? Do Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. So you see that first circle that I erased? Look at how many anchor points it plotted. A lot. What if I just do a shape tool and I make a circle? Okay. Now, what I can do is I can subtract that circle from the shape behind it. Now, it's hard to know what I'm doing, so instead of having that circle filled with black, I'm just going to temporarily fill it with another color. I could use white, but white can get really confusing, right? So now I have this shape, and I want to cut it out of this shape. So for this is the professional way. It's called the Pathfinder tool. You'll find it under Window and Pathfinder, right? And it looks like this. And it's an important enough tool, I put it right in my sidebar here. I'll put all of these in here. But the Pathfinder is one we're going to be using over and over again for most kinds of design. Okay, so the Pathfinder tool. it has this function, which is the minus function. Right now, I only have one path selected. If I minus, it can't do anything because you need to choose two paths, a path underneath and a path on top. And as long as they're overlapping, so I'm going to select this path first, this one, and then I'm going to hold down Command and click on this path. So they're both selected, just like selecting multiple layers in Photoshop. Now, if I click on the minus in Pathfinder, it will subtract the top layer from the bottom layer. Boom. And so now I have a hole cut out, but it's a whole lot cleaner. A whole lot cleaner. Now, what if I want a more complicated shape? Well, just like I can draw any path, like, let me make a little star with the pen tool. A little customized pentagram, right? And then just so you can see it clearly, I'll fill it with a color, no stroke. Now I'm going to select the base layer, then I'm going to hold Command, select my star layer, and then I'm going to use Pathfinder to minus it out. And because it's already cut with as few anchor points as possible, if I want to, I can start on the path and then end on the path and use my pencil tool to augment it. So, how is that going to relate to my design? This does not make sense to just do with the eraser tool, because that won't be smooth. It will have way too many anchor points. So what I'm going to do is create a new layer. I'm going to lock the others, right? And I'll turn this one off so it's not distracting anymore as well. Okay. And now on this new layer, plug in my computer, I'm going to make these shapes. And some of these are kind of tough. So why don't I start with the easy ones? And I have 3 methods where I can make the fills. My favorite method is the pencil tool, but it takes practice, especially with a tablet. So I'm just going to draw and let the pencil tool finish it off and smooth it for me. This one has sharper edges. Right. So both those paths are there, but they're both empty paths, right? So if I want, I can fill them with a color. Why am I not filling them with black? Well, because these are the things I'm going to cut out from the black. Now I'm using the pencil tool because these shapes are pretty arbitrary. And then I'm going to use the pencil tool for the hand as well because it's more organic. And this is where the better your refined sketch is, the more you know exactly what you're trying to do. Right? Then I'm going to fill it with that color. Okay, now this shape, I'm not going to use the pencil tool for because I don't want it to be wavy here. So what's a good tool to use? This isn't close to an established shape tool. You know, it's not an easy rectangle or an easy ellipse or a polygon. So the pen tool is going to give me the most control. I'm going to click the corner, then I'm going to click where I want the curve to end, and then I'm going to drag, click and drag. I can use Command. Oh, I thought I could use Command minus. But now I can use Command minus and C. And then do I want the sympathetic curve like I did for around here? I don't, right? I want a straight. So how do I, without having to change it after the fact, change my curve into a straight? I click back on the anchor point I just created. And that will convert it back to a straight. And then I want a straight here. And then I want a straight here. And now I want a curve, so I go to the end of my curve and I click and I drag. And then I want a straight again, not the sympathetic curve, so I click on the anchor point. and I finish it off by going to the top. Now it didn't quite match, so how do I fix it? I use my small selection tool. I click off of it, I hover over that anchor point that has the handle, and then I pull that handle until it's what I want. Okay, so far so good. Now, do I like the difference between that and that? Not really. So how can I fix that? What I can do is actually use the pen tool and then click on my path. And it will add, whoops, I need to see the anchor points first. So I'll zoom in so you can see this. This is a new layer with blue anchors, so it's a little bit harder to see. So I'm going to click on the path. It adds an anchor point. That allows me to click off of it, hover over it, and then drag that out. Right. Now, what if I wanted this to be a little bit rounded? I can click on that anchor point, and then I can use the rounding tool to soften it a bit. So you really have a lot of control, as long as you know what your anchor points are doing. I'm also going to round this one a tiny bit. Just a little. And then I might even try rounding this. Just a little. And maybe these corners too. Just because they can be a little harsh. But maybe not that one. I kind of like that one. I'll do it tiny bit. Tiny little rounded edges. Okay. Now that I have those rounded edges, I might think, you know what? I want to round these edges. Just a little bit. These corners. That's why it's called the corner tool sometimes, because you often use it to just soften corners. You see how this one's already softened. So I don't really need to soften it more. That's because I drew it with the pencil tool. That's already softened. Yeah, that looks good. Now the tough one, the bottle. How can I make that bottle shape? Well, the problem with it is it's a symmetrical shape. So I'm going to use that bottle shape to teach you guys how to do perfectly symmetrical things. But you can't do them at an angle. So what I'm going to do is rotate the board. So there is what's called the rotate tool. It's right there. And what I do is I click and I drag. Nope, that's not doing it. Where is it? But what I want to do is be able to create this horizontally. So let me do this. Oh, it's because it's locked. So I go to my sketch layer, I unlock it, and I'm going to copy it, Command C. Then I'm going to make a new layer above it. You won't need to do this. This is just so I can show you how to do symmetrical design. And then I'm going to select that layer above that I just created, and I'm going to say Edit, Paste in Place. Right? I can onion skin it again by double-clicking. Now, I'm going to use the Rotate tool on it. Actually, I don't even need to use the Rotate tool. I can just use the Large Selection tool on it, and I can rotate it. Well. Okay, now how can I make sure, actually I'll just do it off to the side here. How can I make sure that it's vertical? If you hit Command R, you'll turn on rulers. These rulers are not based on inches, they're based on picas and points. But that doesn't matter, because all I need the ruler for is to pull out guides, just like we do in Photoshop. I'm going to put a guide right down the middle. And that will help me, with the Large Selection tool, to angle my sketch to be vertical instead of on a tilt. And it actually shows me that my bottle in my sketch, even though I composited it, was not perfectly vertical. Because the middle of the bottom there, or not perfectly symmetrical. So this is my plan. I'm going to onion skin this a little bit more. So I'll do it even to 20.